Thank you everybody for being here and tuning in live with the artist Kabila. My name is JasonACoombs and I am the artistic director of Artist Kabila, which is it's a monthly networking event that happens in New York City. It's diverse artists sharing new work, highlighting the actor and writer, director, producer relationship. And we also have, singers, we have poets. It's just like a way for artists to get together and be together, unified, and with like-minded people. We've been doing it since October 2017, and thanks to the new way of life of COVID and quarantine, we've been doing it on Zoom every Sunday at 2:00. But yeah, today I wanted to celebrate Juneteenth. So happy Juneteenth, everybody! I'm so happy to be here, and I invited some of my friends, some people that I really love and truly admire, to spend this time with me, spend this space with me for the next hour or so. So I want them to introduce themselves, and I'll go one by one. I'll start with Delequa.
Hello, everyone. Happy Juneteenth. I am Delequa, singer, actress. I'm just all about love. You know what I mean? Do have music available. You can always go check out some of my recent singles. It's all about, like I said, all positivity and all love, and just about making the world better for all of us, really.
Thank you for being here. Demi, can you go next?
Hey, everyone. I'm Demi. I am an actress here in New York, originally from Virginia. I also assistant directed for the first time this year, and I'm a programmer for Female Voices Rock Film Festival. I'm just so happy to be sharing this day with all of you on Juneteenth.
I'm going to go to Dr. Shannon Fairley-Pittman next.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Dr. Shannon Fairley-Pittman. I'm from Bridgeport, Connecticut. A few of my friends here also, so shout out to Bridgeport. But also, I live in Boston. My role is Associate Director at the Northeastern University. And I recently just received my doctorate in research surrounding thank you. My research is surrounding understanding the motivating factors for success of first-generation college students. And so really trying to tap in, and a lot of my research was around students of color. And so I'm happy to be here today and looking forward to talking with all of you.
LaNeshe, you're next, my love.
Yes, hello, happy Juneteenth. My name is LaNeshe White. I am a culture producer, actress, marketer. I have a theater company in Philadelphia called Theater in the X, where we provide access to quality performance for Black audiences and provide opportunities for Black artists. I'm also from Bridgeport, Connecticut, so I have a couple friends in here.
Thank you. Ryan.
Hi, my name is Ryan Elle. I'm an actress, model, all-around performer. I'm very much an activist in certain respects. I live here in Bridgeport. I've been in New York City for 10 years. I just moved back, quarantine and everything. So yeah, I'm happy to be here with all these amazing people.
T. Ashley, you're next.
Hi guys, happy Juneteenth.
Happy Juneteenth.
I am T. Ashley, a published writer, and I love to write plays also. That was my love in college. I reside in Stratford, Connecticut, but I'm from Bridgeport, Connecticut, so I know some of you guys. That's it. I'm just happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thanks for being a part of this. I love your t-shirt. I tried to get mine today, but it didn't come in time. Awesome. Aleesha, please introduce your beautiful self.
Happy Juneteenth. I feel like this is my favorite holiday of the year. I am a writer-director working in New York City. I'm also a digital illustrator, and I don't know, I've spent 20 years working in marketing and overseeing audience development for some smaller theaters here in New York City. So.
Yes, Aleesha is amazing. I begged her like last minute. I was like, can you please do this today? After she had an amazing event this morning that I went to celebrating Juneteenth. So thank you. And last but not least, Tracie.
Hey guys, I'm Tracie Pinnock. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist from Bridgeport. So hey guys. I'm currently in Queens right now doing everything virtually and all of that because, you know, COVID. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
And yeah, the topic today we're discussing is our ancestors' wildest dream, because, you know, I'm looking at all these beautiful Black faces and seeing all the success and all the talent and all the love you guys have shared in your spaces online and, offline with all your work. So I'm just happy to be here. I wanted to talk a little bit about Juneteenth. Juneteenth is also known as Freedom Day or Jubilee Day or Emancipation Day or Liberation Day. And it's a holiday celebrating the liberation of those who had been held as slaves in the United States. It's celebrated annually on the 19th of June throughout the US, with many cities and many states have passed or trying to pass legislation for it to be a federal holiday. It commemorates the Union Army General Gordon Granger announcing federal orders in Galveston, Texas on June 19, 1865, proclaiming that all people held as slaves in Texas were free. And that came 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation came into effect. In 1980, Texas became the first state to recognize June 19th as a state holiday. Today, June 19th is recognized by nearly every state, almost, in some kind of way, but we want it to be a federal, nationwide holiday. Initially, Juneteenth celebrations included church services, public readings of the Emancipation Proclamation, social events and rodeos and dances. As the civil rights movement gained momentum in the 60s, Juneteenth kind of faded, the celebrations kind of faded. With the Black Lives Matter movement, it's kind of come back and made a resurgence. And now in 2020, we are like, we're not gonna not celebrate this anymore, right? We're fucking celebrating our holiday. And this is enough. We've had enough of not doing this and not sharing this time. And, a lot of people rather celebrate this than July 4th. I guess I just want to talk about sharing space and, maybe we can see how everybody's doing the last couple of weeks. But yeah, can I start with Delequa? How you doing? How you holding up the past few weeks, given all this time?
Wow, yes. It's actually been, I would say, a wake-up call. I remember when all of this really started going on. I was sitting in this very place that I'm sitting on this live with you guys today, and I did a live on my personal page, and I had said, because it was a Sunday, and I didn't go to church that Sunday. And, a lot of the people were like, why didn't you go to church? And I said, I don't know if y'all know what's coming, but the universe done let me know something is coming, and it's time to get ready. Get this mind right, get everything right, so that way when everything that's happening is going on, you need to grow, and you need to learn from whatever's about to happen. And you need to be spiritually in tune. So I really took the time to focus on self, especially mentally. Dealing with that, because it's just a lot. When you look on social media, which was at one point, the only thing we had was media because they forced us in the home, everything just kind of erupted from there, And so it's definitely been a whirlwind, but I'm grateful overall because at the end of the day, the universe will still win, aka positivity, aka God will always win. So that's where my trust is.
Thank you. Demi, you want to share how you're feeling?
Yeah, I think that the past 3.5 weeks have been one of the biggest roller coasters I've been on in my life in terms of emotional lows and then some middles and then some lows. I don't know about highs. There's been some highs, but I think very similarly, it was a wake-up call. A wake-up call to realize that I need to live my life with more intention. I need to delve into research and learning more about Black culture, Black history, and retraining myself in the history that I didn't learn, even though I went to some good schools that just didn't teach that stuff to me. So it's been a wake-up call, but I think it's also been an incredibly empowering wake-up call as well.
Thank you. Shannon, Dr. Shannon?
Thank you for allowing us to share this space at this time, because often for me, I'm often in spaces where it's reacting to things, and I'm always having to be ready to go. So thank you for allowing us to kind of just process that. Since COVID, I keep calling both of these pandemics because they both are, and so they're affecting us in our country, and we're all taking different tolls around it. And so COVID was already a mess, and then you think about what this has illuminated. For me, I've just been trying to find ways to be effective, right? And so, and what Demi mentioned, be intentional, because at this point, for me, in the space in higher ed, I'm looked at now even more so as a Black man, gay man, all the things, right? And so, doctor, so it's like, what can we do now? How can we solve this? And so it's trying to find ways to educate, be responsive, and hold people accountable to how to move through this space, because we've been here before, but people are just everyone's waking up in new ways. So processing.
Yeah, right. It's like we have, I guess the good thing about this happening now is like there's no distraction really. There's no sports, and there's like we're kind of all stuck at home. Well, those of us who are being responsible, we're kind of stuck here. Like, so it's like kind of good in a way that we're able to focus, so leisurely focus on the issue at hand. More than just us, right? It's like a collective, other communities as well. LaNeshe?
I think kind of like what Demi was saying, I've had ups, I've had downs. It's been a lot between COVID and the uprising, and also in Philadelphia, we're dealing with the mayor wanting to like cut funding to all of the arts. So like those three things have been like driving me crazy and definitely producing some ups and downs. And I think I've just been like trying to hold on to joy. And as an artist, not feeling like I have to produce when I'm not ready to. That was definitely something, especially when COVID first started happening. It felt like it was like, you got to do a thing now. You got to launch a podcast. You got to do a live. You got to do something, right? Because you're an artist. And I just couldn't do it yet. I was not ready. And I think by the time I got ready, like my company produced a Zoom reading that went really well. And like, I feel like I've been intentionally like producing as needed for me, and just really like advocating both for myself and for other people to like do what you need to do. If that's nothing, then do nothing. If that is, writing your magnum opus, then do that. But like tap into yourself and what you need, and don't feel pressure from any of these situations to like do what isn't working for you.
For sure. Thank you for sharing that. I can relate in so many ways. And I kind of went the opposite a little bit, because I was like, one week I was like a cook on Instagram Live, and then one week I was like a fitness dance teacher and then one week I was like, I can't do anything but sit in bed. Like it's been a roller coaster, like you all kind of said.
For me, I feel like it was the complete opposite of LaNeshe. I felt like I had to do something. Like I had to put something out there. Like this is the time. It's now or never, because I hadn't put anything out for a whole entire year. So I'm still focused on getting more stuff out there, because I feel like as an African American woman, I feel like I have to put more African American women out there in literature. Like that's just my mindset. And then for me, like I felt like I was engaging too much with people. Like I was getting into too many discussions and too many disagreements with people on Facebook. So I decided not to engage. So I was exhausted. I turned out like being tired, and I was tired of being the representation in a lot of like things outside of my artistry. And I just decided to start telling people no. And that's where I am right now. I'm telling people no. Like, I'm not going to be your Black voice. Figure it out. No.
Yes. all of that.
So
me and Demi been talking about that like for the past 2 weeks. Tracie.
So I'm a huge proponent on the best of days of protecting my peace. So this has come into play significantly now. And so I have to say that like it's something that I actively practice, and believe it or not, maybe sometimes to a fault, meaning that like I'm very boundaried. And so like I've been able to create a bit of like an emotionally safe bubble for myself with all of this. But like that can sometimes, to your point, T. Ashley, that like it to a point where like you are having to create those lines, like, oh, this is what I can do, this is what I can't do, or this is what I won't do. And I feel like generally speaking in my life, I've managed to do that generally consistently. So at this time, I've seen it really benefit me. And that's not always easy though, because I think sometimes then it feels like maybe I'm not giving enough, or I'm not sharing enough, or I'm not being there enough to be the voice of this or that. And it's a line. It's definitely a line to walk. But we have to, because otherwise with everything going on, you kind of fall apart. So
Aleesha?
You know, like Tracie, I'm definitely unapologetically boxed into my world, and I kind of had a head start on the quarantine because I was in Italy for 6 months right before we walked right into COVID. So, you know, I sort of had this solo travel trip, and so that practice of keeping boundaries. It's been up and down. I think the number one question that I've had this whole time is, how do you care for yourself and still care for others in deep ways? And yeah, I think most of all, I've just been learning to listen to myself, try to create what I can and not feel the pressure to do anything. I've been listening a lot, whether that be listening to books or listening to tutorials or just listening to silence, and not feeling, too compelled to like write a book, because those are the things. I think what I've noticed is that some people are maybe doing the opposite of what they used to do. And so in a normal setting, I think I was overproducing. And so this sort of made me have to step back and go, okay, wait, you need to take care of yourself if you're going to be effective for other people. And yeah, I've had to just learn that,
Yeah. You got to put, like what they say when you're on a plane, right? And it's going down. You got to put your mask on first before you can help other people, right? Because
exactly.
Ain't nobody flying right now, but
take the mask and run.
Yeah. Ryan, how are you, my love?
I'm good. Before, actually, I feel like I've been like as an actress who is Black, and I've been acting since high school. I've been acting for years, and I've been growing tired of, beating the pavement back and forth in New York City, not finding things for me and being okay with it, or like I can't, I've always been like very vocal, like on the internet, and have had to deal with my share of abuse from outside forces. But now I feel like there's been a Band-Aid that's ripped off, and people are kind of seeing what me and people like me have actually been dealing with, and that we're not just complaining, we're saying we are tired and we need to be listened to. So now the way I'm dealing with it is just sitting back, not feeling the need to explain myself all the time, because sometimes that person you're talking to doesn't really deserve an explanation from you. I've been looking at the industry a different way. I've been trying to write roles that I would like to play in, instead of relying on outside writers who just don't understand, my type of character, or like, they don't know how to write for Black women. So that's kind of giving me some peace, because I'm like in control in a way. So that kind of gives me like a nice, solid feeling.
I love hearing the different ways that we're all like responding to this, right? And like, I wish I could be more like the Aleesha, right? Who's like, and the Tracies who can just like set the boundaries right away and be like, nope, not doing it. That's what I'm trying to get to.
I know. Yep.
Yeah, that's like where I'm going. That's where I want to be, right? That's like the place where I want to get to. Like I'm getting there slowly, inch by inch, but yeah. So Tracie, can you talk a little bit about mental health and like, this is a very stressful time, right? It's like a lot of anxiety. The world is changing and it's a lot. I was trying to articulate to someone what it's like to have a whole decade go by of seeing Black men, right? Black people, like videos and pictures. And even if you don't seek out the video, it's still everywhere, like that's the thing that it's so hard. And it's so like, I don't understand how people don't get it, right? After seeing that constantly. But can you talk a little bit about like mental health and like maybe some advice for those of us who are struggling?
Definitely. So yeah, I mean, just starting by acknowledging the fact that we all have our individual lives and individual issues or concerns and problems happening. Then a whole pandemic out of a sci-fi novel comes and hits us. And then we have, you know, racism and racial injustices of America being exposed in a way where like more people are like being like, oh, wow, okay. So now it's just like boom, 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 right? Even some of the things that we've already talked about here around how we are coping or dealing with everything come into play with this. To your point about like seeing just like images of Black people being killed and harmed and all of that, even if you're not seeking it out, it finds you. So like just practical things like us limiting our exposure to these things that we see, social media, the news, all of that sort of stuff. So especially now I'm doing a lot of talking with people about, you know, choose 1 hour of the day that you choose to watch the news if you know, want to make sure that you know what's going on, but you also don't want to overexpose yourself to everything. So 1 hour in the evening is usually good because that's when there's, you know, it's a summary of everything that's happened that day. Social media, that's a big one because again, on a good day, people get into that comparison trap where they're comparing themselves and their situation to everybody else's highlight reel, as we say. So again, even now, like being really thoughtful about the social media that you're consuming. And then there's this need for a lot of us to create emotional safe space in our homes. If you happen to be quarantined with other people, you could love these people to death, but like they also get on your nerves. So like you have to be able to like create those that emotional safe space where you can't always get the physical space. So, you know, when you can, being outside, you know, in nature, you know, wide open spaces while you can, which again, another side note. So a lot of times, you know, going out would be a way that people would cope with things, but here we are in a pandemic and now that's not an option. So like we are being very limited and restricted to a lot of the things that we're able to do to cope with stress. But yeah, getting outside amongst nature as much as possible. If there's a door in your house that you can close it sometimes so that you can create that space. Headphones are our good friends these days. Put on your headphones, go into your own little world, listen to your podcasts or your audiobooks or your music. And just finding those things. Like, I know that the term self-care is thrown out there a lot these days, but it really, really is like a foundational thing for me because I always say that life is going to come with its amount of stressors. And the way you balance out the stressors in life is by having the self-care. It's like, if you don't have enough of the self-care, it becomes a lopsided scale. So in terms of what self-care is for everyone, it's not one size fits all. It's unique to the individual. I really do tell people, take a piece of paper and write down everything that you can think of, any activity that brings you a sense of peace, joy, or excitement, and write that down, even if it's something you don't get to do very often. Anything that you know has done that. So if you like to paint, if you like to take walks, if you like to make sure you get a nap in each day or a warm bath, you name it, right? But what's self-care for me may not be self-care for you. So it's important to identify what those things are. And now in our current times, with everything going on, you then take that list that might be a list of self-care items and you end up having to whittle it down to the things that you can actually really go do. So if mani-pedis were your thing, they're not your thing right now necessarily. So you're having to find what those other things are. So yeah, it's about creating an emotional safe space for ourselves in times where there's just a lot going on.
Thank you. Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, I live with this notebook next to me all the time. I'm always just trying to like jot stuff down and take as much as I can in from other people. So that's so beneficial. I know everybody else has like their own.
I literally just repainted my deck to make a safe space and put out a chair and a single plant out there. It's perfection.
Go ahead, Ryan.
No, I did a similar thing. I painted the back. I'm not good at painting. And then I started a garden. I've never gardened anything. I never planted a seed before, but now I got like I made tomatoes. So it's kind of it is therapeutic watching things grow.
It is. I feel like I baby this plant every 5 minutes. I'm like, hey girl, you
talk to them too? I do.
My sister was like, you got me calling your plant a girl. I was like, that's his preferred pronoun, even though it's in a blue pot.
Yeah. I bought some plants as well. Like when the quarantine happened, like the day before all the plant shops closed down. And I was like, I'm gonna have my plant. I'm gonna be a plant daddy. I'm gonna post about my plants. And then a week later, they were dying. And I was like, well, but they're having a comeback now. They're coming back. You know, I think as I started to get better, like they started getting better. Yeah, I love that. I love that. And Ryan, I see you like on your Instagram. She's like digging in the dirt and like painting. It's like really, really inspiring.
And it's a good exercise too. It really is.
Yeah.
Yes, that painting.
Yeah.
Yes, I was felt like I was doing mountain climbers the next day. I was like, oh, okay, back of my legs need some help. But
Yes. Shannon, we're gonna jump to education. If you want to talk a little bit about that. I mean, because the biggest thing, like we've been telling everybody, right, is like to educate yourselves, right? That's like the biggest message, right? To read and to watch and to take it in before you speak, right?
Jason and others been talking about just like the effects on all of this and how to respond. And even earlier I shared, like, it's like always kind of like, how can I impart, right? Or like lead someone down the right path at this point? Because this is the time, and I'm going to speak first purely on just like us as Black people. Like, I mean, this is about Juneteenth. So, but we all, you know, in many ways, right, we are allies to others, and we are all trying to figure out ways to support people in this journey. And so, but for us as Black people, you know, we also have to do the work of educating, because that is where the freedom comes to. And some of this sometimes can also, right now, can feel maybe surprising, depending on where people were in their journey of Black Lives Matter and, you know, supporting Black individuals and equality and all those different things, right? And so freedom, you know, just connecting this back to Juneteenth, freedom comes with like knowledge. And so 1865, those last freed slaves in Texas, they were like, oh, we didn't know we were free? You know, like, who? Okay, so, you know, so all of that comes with like just simple things.
So true. So
just
true.
like, just knowledge. And then it's like, what do you do with that as you are more aware, right? And so the next piece is like, freedom comes with the ability to become aware of the world issues and perspectives, because now in many ways you are outside of this box that you were put in, and now you're exposed. And some of us, many of us now, I'm gonna just speak now about the racial pandemic, it's like we're out this box. We are finding new ways to like cope with like what the world was that we thought we knew really wasn't. And I want to hit on perspective, because I think that's a huge piece. Even within this, the you know, 9 boxes we have here, we are coming from so many different places. And for us as Black people, we have a responsibility to learn about ourselves, but also others in our community to fellowship, so that when they are on the front line of a movement, we are right there supporting them. So that's a huge piece on like perspective. You know, for me, I'm like thinking, once you're, and this is going back just again to 1865, right? Just once you're enlightened, and then you're more aware of how to manage that, you're really able to like empower yourselves to take hopefully the good in that and move forward. So how can I, now that I know these things, how can I use this to better myself, my family, my friends, all these different things? And again, it really does come at your own pace. You know, honestly, like I have been exhausted, right? Just within my work. And today, you know, I worked, but I took a nap, man, because I needed to, you know, and it was like, I had to take a nap. And
yes,
so
take that nap, take that break.
Take that break. And so much of that comes with just like knowing the backs of like our ancestors and like what they've worked for. And sometimes they weren't able to take that nap. And I have some of that privilege to do that. You know, I'm working. And so that use that empowerment to then use that strength for good and improvement. And so I will speak on like from higher education, from that standpoint. I'm talking to my peers now and saying like, and people who are older, right? People who I look to as bosses and superiors and say, we failed. Like we failed in so many ways, our Black people in this country, because we did not provide, one, the ability for them to learn about themselves, right? Like you block that in so many ways in these systems. And some of us were able to, again, thrive even without that, right? And kind of find our way and find our people and connect, and then you become enlightened. And other pockets and you're like, oh, okay, I can make through. But a large majority are blocked from their history, which does not allow them that freedom of knowledge and awareness and perspective and ability to understand how so much work has already happened for all of us again. And now in 2020, we need to take that momentum to move forward. But a lot of that comes with understanding what has already been done, right? And like how we can move within those things, because then you're able to actually speak with others who maybe are oppressing you and say, actually, I know that, or you can't do this to me again, or let's change it up here. So all of that to say is that there's so much more work to do in the education system. And that goes all the way down to elementary school. I will share that my husband is an elementary school teacher. And so I was sharing that I was going to be on this call, and Tandrea actually mentioned, like, I would love to hear like what schools are doing. And I will share too that like the school system, the public school system, is a hot mess. Like, it's a hot mess. I mean, I live in Boston and they pride themselves on being the best. And I have someone who works within, and they got some work to do, and so, I'm thinking like, what are the other states like if this is the best? And so I will share that I asked him in many ways to be like, how are you gonna address this potentially, right? And with your students. And honestly, like he and his friends in his school, they do a really good job in all these kind of things. So I kind of felt confident in doing that. But even for him to be able to say, hey, like I should do something, right? I mean, they're fourth graders, but how do I appropriately, again, enlighten them? And again, it doesn't have to be so deep into the tragedy of it all, but like celebrate. This is a big day. Like hopefully they look back and they say, oh, my fourth grade teacher told me about Juneteenth, and then I can again continue that down the road. And so my final piece, I'm sorry, is just like when you think about like educating yourself. And I heard someone today talking about, and I think Jason, you shared about this already, and kind of the waves of Juneteenth. And I wasn't aware of it either, thinking about like how it's gone up and down of celebrating it for Black people in this country. There was like right before the Harlem Renaissance, people during the Harlem Renaissance were actually celebrating because they were a bit more happier times, and depression happened. And then people went back to just like trying to just survive. You go to the 60s, there's the movement. People were celebrating again because we were all in that movement. Then you get back down to some downward times, and we kind of forget. And maybe sometimes that is complacent too. Like I think we were just complacent in some of these, decades. And then you think about, Black Lives Matter, and then now we're back in this moment. And so I want us to hold on to that momentum, and I want us to do our work too. And some of that is just trying to find ways to understand each other. And so I do want to share just like 5 books that I have been really happy about in terms of, they're not like beach books for, and there's some journey in there for sure, but it's definitely not like gonna, hopefully not going to cause too much trauma for you. But the first one is, and this is like my number one, is The Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel Wilkinson. And so this is a journey about the Great Migration in the United States. So African Americans moving from the South to the North during that time. It follows 3 different people, but during the time where they believed that they were going to find freedom, actually, right? They thought they were going to go to the North and the world was going to be greater for them and brighter and happier. And then you find that we're still struggling in different ways, right? Strategic ways, right? And so this was just like a journey. And I personally, my grandmother grew up in North Carolina and moved to the big city of New York City when she was like 16 in like the 50s. And so I think in many ways I'm like connected to her story and thinking about what she thought she was going to find when she moved to New York City. The next one is No Ashes in the Fire by Darnell Moore. And so this is a Black gay man. And so he grew up in Trenton, New Jersey in the 80s, 70s, 80s. He's very, like, he's late 30s, early 40s. So he's not super old, but he talks about his journey as being, again, a Black man in New Jersey, in a, really what would be called like a ghetto, right? And so, and trying to find himself and his voice, and obviously there's Black struggle within that, and also how it was compromised being in what would be a low-income background neighborhood, right? And so just trying to understand what that's like for someone. The next one is Ta-Nehisi Coates, Between the World and Me. Love this book, and especially right now, in uplifting Black men being dads. And this is a story about how he's basically talking to his son about the world, about being a Black man, like what he's going to encounter, how you can manage this, how he wants him to essentially be proud of who he is, even though the world might not always see him as someone that is great. And so, right. So it's like,
yeah, awesome.
So Ta-Nehisi Coates, Between the World and Me, for sure. I have two more, sorry. And
don't be sorry.
Becoming, by, of course, our First Lady, forever First Lady.
Yes.
Michelle Obama. That is just a story. Obviously, and I'll go with me in this. I was reading another book, America's First Daughter, which is about Thomas Jefferson's daughter, Patsy Jefferson. And I was reading it just to catch up on U.S. history that they didn't share about how Thomas Jefferson was trash in many ways. And so,
and was a rapist of his.
Was so many things. I mean, that family did so many things, but was forever, they're forever great. And so, but then to read this and think about the poise and the presence and the grace and what they were doing as the first Black, family in the White House, and then think about her story, because this is about her and just being her, a Black woman, and what the country did to her and how she had to maneuver in that is amazing. I mean, this is history. And so I love this, but it's light in many ways. Like, this is probably the lightest one in the journey. I have, my last book is Americana, but I do want to kind of share that this is, I think, another perspective piece where Chimamanda, and I never know how to pronounce her name fully, but Chimamanda is the author of Americana. And it's about the understanding of being African and coming to America and then being told you're Black, and then understanding what Black means in America and kind of that intersection there. So those are my top 5. I love. I feel like, again, this just really goes back to us understanding each other from all different perspectives. And again, the journey is literally in all these books. This journey of racial inequity is in all of these books, is just manifested in different ways. So I hope that you all enjoy those, but that's my piece for now.
I'm gonna jump to LaNeshe because I had something to say, but LaNeshe, she wanted to add something.
Oh no, I was just gonna say and kind of highlight what Shannon was saying as far as knowledge is power, and connecting that to Juneteenth, and connecting to the fact that it also is power and something that you have to take, to think about those slaves in Texas who were, I mean, we're not completely free now, but who were still certified slaves 2 years later. And only because they didn't have that knowledge. So taking that, and especially today on Juneteenth, remembering that literally knowledge is power, and you have to take it because the other people in positions of power don't want you to have the power of knowledge. And so, yeah, I was just going to kind of underscore what Shannon was saying about that.
And then if you don't know that, they will use that against you. And, and I think right now, in many ways, all of us have positions of power, hopefully in our fields, and even though sometimes we don't feel it, we do. And so we have to hold people accountable to the things we do know.
I love that so much. Did anybody want to share any other books that you're reading that brings you joy? LaNeshe, start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I read this maybe 2012 now, but The Sisters All Right by Tamara Winfrey Harris. It just I felt so seen as a Black woman reading that book, realizing that a lot of my life and the struggles are connected to systems, or are connected to long-standing assumptions about Black women, both from non-Black women and from Black women ourselves. Even things of accepting that we have to have the world on our backs, like that is somehow the position that we're supposed to be in, you know? And so sometimes we take that as a place of pride, like, you know, I've got the world on my shoulders and I'm doing this, and like, no, don't put the world on your shoulders. Like, that is not, that's not the position that we're supposed to be in. That's the position anyone is supposed to be in. And so that book was really, really good in just helping me like feel seen as a Black woman and like what I go through and the perceptions that I hadn't even like realized I had internalized. So that was a good one.
What was the title?
The Sisters Are All Right by Tamara Winfrey Harris. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm gonna get that.
Yeah, I'm taking these notes too. I love because you know I'll just. Oh no, sorry. Go ahead, Tracie. You go first. Go ahead.
Oh.
No. You go first.
Oh, it was just another book, and it's way lighter, but I think she deserves all the props. And by Retta, So Close to Being the Shit Y'all Don't Even Know. It was a read, and for it also bringing in, like you mentioned with Americana, it's interesting because her parents are African born, and so there's also like that cultural perspective involved too in her story. But when we talk about books that like brought me a sense of joy by Black authors, that definitely was one of them. Retta's book, it's really good.
Did anybody else want to add a book? I'm sorry, I don't want to jump.
Sure, I can add.
Yeah.
First of all, Retta's book keeps coming up on my suggestion, so now I'm going to listen to it. I keep seeing it, so I need to listen to that. I've been listening on repeat to Tembe Locke is someone that I've listened to that book 3 times in a row. The book is called From Scratch, and it's a memoir about her life in Italy and the time she spent in Sicily. She was doing a little like foreign exchange in Florence, and she met a guy who was a Sicilian guy. She's a Black American actress, which I didn't know of before this book. And yeah, just her journey from, you know, being married to an Italian man and what that looked like for him, to marry outside of the Sicilian culture, and his family sort of disown him and her. And, you know, she was raised by two Black activists, and they, you know, just had a different mindset. So she flew to Sicily and was like, we're basically staying here until they come down this mountain. And what it looked like for a Black American to heal, you know, that family. And then when he passed and his father had passed, the two women were sort of left, the wife and the mother-in-law. And she continuously went back to the little town in Sicily and just had that life, you know, of trying to raise her daughter without the context of the dad being there, but also just like in a new culture of being in Sicily and being with the mom and learning new different ways to cook and all those other things. And I love the book. A second one to be by Terrence Hayes, American Sonnets for My Past and Future Assassin. And it's a book of sonnets. It came out in 2018, and it's all the topics: racism, masculinity, and politics. And I think like when we talk about any kind of Zoom call that I've been on over the past few months, have all asked like sort of any kind of the meditation ones would be like, what would you tell your younger self? And I think that's what he's kind of doing, is like he's responding to the past traumas, and how would he respond if he sort of was able to assassinate people with his words, I guess, is more of what his take is. And then also the future, and thinking about all of the repetitive murdering of Black men and Black people. So I love his book. And both of these I listen to on audio, and their authors read their own words, and it's just a good experience to spend time with the authors, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I have so many books to read. I was just going to say a really quick story. I don't want to take up too much time about this, but one of my friends, Lori, like in the middle of April, she posted on Instagram a picture of her bookshelf, you know, like just like flaunting her bookshelf. And she was like, this is my collection of Black women authors. And it was like a huge bookshelf. And I was like, how many Black women authors do I have? And I literally went to go count on my little 3 little shelf thing in my room. And I had like 6 or 7 books. And I was like, that's kind of embarrassing. So I messaged her, and I was like, one of them was T. Ashley. Actually, a couple more T. Ashley. I will definitely say that. But I asked her for a recommendation. I was like, I'm slacking. I'm slacking. I need to know more, right? And she recommended this one to me that I got. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's called Bad Feminist, and it's such an interesting book. And it's I'm not finished with it yet. I just got it like last week or so. But it's such a powerful story of being a Black woman in this country from her perspective, and the struggles in media and representation and all that good stuff that I just had to share with everybody because I'm loving it so far. I want to talk about art though. Like that's our last part of the conversation, right? We have education and mental health and art, and it's so important to so many of us, right? All of us. It's how a lot of people are surviving the pandemic, and how so many of people are finally learning and educating themselves is through watching documentaries like 13th, and I think they just made the movie with Jamie Foxx and Michael B. Jordan. Yes, Just Mercy. It's like free this month to watch. So like art is so important, and I can go on and on about why art is important, but I think we all collectively know that. So I wanted to ask the group, what kind of art do you want to make, and how does your Blackness or your queerness or your gender identity and expression kind of fit into the art you make?
I don't think it will change for me. I have a theater company that is all Black, and we put on Black shows for Black audiences. And so I think as now that now we're the soup du jour, if you will, everyone is loving Blackness right now, right? So I think what we are tasked to do now is just stay true to ourselves, because I think all of us, probably in all of our fields, art or otherwise, we're hot right now, right? We're hot right now, and people are going to be reaching out, and people want to partner, people want to do things, and just staying true to what it is that you want to do, what it is that you've surely already been doing all of this time without all of these eyes on it. And just being authentic and continuing that mission, and using opportunities strategically, and taking them or leaving them based on what makes sense for you and your authenticity. That's my main kind of takeaway from this time is and then just with COVID and moving forward and things, using this also as an opportunity, we wouldn't be talking right now probably if it wasn't for COVID,
unfortunately
be having an in-person event in New York and having a succession, and so also taking the opportunity to expand your network or reconnect your network like we're doing here, with the dignity constraints and using technology as a resource, because it is going to be our connectedness as Black artists is going to be really important going forward. And I think it's a good time for us to make those connections now so that we can even move forward even stronger in the work that we've been doing.
So obviously I always just write Black characters, but tonight I'm actually doing a play-a-thon, and I was talking to Jason about this earlier, and I honestly have it in my head to write a Black play. I don't care who the characters are, I'm going to put Blackness in it. It's Juneteenth, and I feel like that's something that I have to do, especially with them picking today as the day to do that. And then I also have been plotting in my head more plays, because I've been focused so much on books. And I feel like Ryan made me go, yeah, I really need to do this. I need to write more Black characters for plays, because even as a theater kid in college, there weren't that many opportunities. My senior show was, I played a white woman, a white grandmother, but it didn't say that in the book, but we all knew it. So it's just hard, and I feel like that's my main focus going forward with my art, is just to create more for us.
I just want to piggyback off of what T just said. I'm definitely going to continue, because I've been writing, but continue writing about Black characters, going to continue to audition for Black theater companies, for, the up and coming writers. Just all, we need to be in our own community, support our own community, because I know back, like I went to theater school and all that, and I played just like the Shakespearean roles where like it's okay, you can be Black because it doesn't say it, and then you have to sit out the rest of the semester because there's no other roles for you. So
that's like, we can talk like the college experience for Black people is a whole week discussion. Like, oh. That's what we talk about next, you guys. We're coming back and we're going to bring that.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, okay. I didn't mean to cut you off, Brian. It's
no. It's a thing. I know.
Yeah, my friend Cherie was talking about it also, like recently. It's so much, you know. Like, oh.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, because like, you know, like everybody else, everybody's been acting since young, and it's a passion. You really want to get on stage, and you want to get into character, and then you get there, it's your moment, and you don't have a character. You don't get to do that. You got to sit and watch everybody else do all these amazing dynamic roles, and then they put you in the corner to like bring in the tea and then leave. So yes, that's a whole nother conversation. I get it. It's like it brings up emotions. That's that whole conversation.
Delequa.
You know, it's funny, you know, you guys are talking about theater. My degree's in theater. I went to school for theater in college as well. And it was definitely an experience, like you said. So I get what you're saying, even in school with acting. But thanks to LaNeshe and Theater and the Excellent, they helped put a fire in me with acting. And but in this time, I was inspired. My management's gonna kill me, but I was inspired to just record. I was quiet, so I was just recording music, and I just want to get my team together, all the writers I love, all the producers, and just record, because I haven't really put music out in a while. And for anybody who knows me, knows I love Beyonce. So I was inspired by her, like seriously inspired by her creative work as a strong Black woman who has been promoting what we're trying to promote for the longest time. Anybody who's paid attention to her, she's been very Black, and she's shown a lot of that, and that's kind of what I wanted to do with my art. And I cannot wait to finally let all of you hear the music. And it's not just centered around LGBT or whatever. I understand that I'm Black, because I've also seen that for a long time as Black individuals, quiet as it's kept, it's been hard for Black people to connect with LGBT. It's been very difficult. It's been a long road. And it's also been a long road within the LGBTQ that even other Black men can't deal with trans or femme, so the hypermasculinity, all those things. So many things have went on, and I just wanted to put all of that in the music and bring light and just really kick all of that down, you know, and just really create that lane where it's like, I don't care, okay, so because they're trans, we're going to put them in here, or because they're Black, we're going to put them here, because they're a rapper, we're going to put them here. You know, music is music, art is art. So we have to learn how to connect it all, because all of us have the same emotions, because we're all human. To be honest with you, it's just how we react to them are maybe another story, but we all have the same emotions: anger, sadness, hurt, depression, all those. We all have those same exact emotions, just different situations. So real quick, there's a song that Pink has on her last album, and it's called Hurts to Be Human. And it just really makes me think, like, man, do we all not understand that we all really just want the same thing? We all just have our own paths of how we're going to get there. You know, and that's just what, like I said, with the art that I've been inspired, everything going on, I was inspired to create that and hopefully create those visuals that'll just bring people together and, you know, make things better.
You know, it's Pride Month, right? And it's like also like Juneteenth, that we're going through this, you know, this new modern day civil rights movement, and like what that means as, you know, being Black and being queer, being trans. And I think, you know, you have to advocate, right? You have to advocate, and you just have to uplift and raise the voices that need to be raised, you know, across the board. And
now that was a hard thing for me. I had 7 booked Pride, y'all. I was going to be on tour, do you hear me, for Pride. But, you know, it just didn't happen that way. So we're going to take it, and we're here together, and we're going to keep changing and continue this. I hope all of this doesn't stop. I hope all the activism, that all this togetherness that everyone is having, I hope we continue to maintain that. You know what I mean? So.
But one of the last questions I'll ask the group before we start wrapping up is, And Aleesha, you brought this up earlier. That said you've been getting on a lot of your Zoom calls. Is the advice you would want to share with your younger self? You know, which may be a little bit cheesy, but I've been thinking about my younger self, and you know, I was alone in quarantine for most of this, and just really thinking about how I want to be of service and like how I can be a better human being. You know, and thinking of ways I can do that. What I would tell my younger self if I had a chance, you know, to rethink or redo things or talk to my younger self. So this is something that's really been resonating inside me. So I wanted to see what you all would say.
You know, just to even bring it back to even the beginning of having boundaries, you know, when you're younger, sometimes you get in trouble for, you know, the same things that you thrive at that makes you a thriving artist or a thriving adult. And I think when I think back to how many people's hands I was like, I am not holding your hand, I don't know you. And how many times my mom would be like, what is wrong with you? You're not nice. And it's just like, but then I grew up and I realized like those same people really weren't, they didn't have good energy. They didn't have the best intentions for people. And so I think I would tell my younger self that you know exactly the energy that you want to have in your life and just stick with it.
Yeah. Tracie, you want to go next?
Yeah, I think I would tell my younger self to speak up. I wasn't a very outspoken child. I'm very shy and, you know, unsure. And so now, in hindsight, I, you know, realize that I have a voice to be used for good. So I always use this term, you know, channel your powers, you know, for good. So that's what I would tell my younger self, to speak up more.
Yeah. I would tell my younger self that you are enough. You're smart enough. You're good enough. Your ideas are good ideas. Keep going. Don't listen to haters, naysayers. As long as you go with your gut, you'll be fine. Just keep going.
Wow, it's funny because RuPaul always asks the top 4 finalists on Drag Race what would
Really?
little picture of their little selves, and they say what they would say to their younger self, and I always say it would be a hard moment for me. But as I've grown, especially with now, I would always tell my younger self, it kind of goes with what you know, you guys were saying about trust yourself. As a young kid, you know, the energies that we're feeling, we come into this world with purity. So we're feeling those energies for reasons, because it's trying to let you know, that's not the way you need to go. This is the way you should go. And I really learned to follow my instinct. I would always tell my best follow, and it would have kept me out of a lot of trouble, and probably would have got me a lot further than what I am now, which I don't regret, because you still learn. But if I tell my younger self, I could have avoided so many things. So I definitely would have said, definitely be proud of yourself. And like you said, don't pay attention to the haters, because telling people will tell you whatever they want to tell you, because their confidence level ain't where yours is. Okay.
I love that.
I love that connection to RuPaul, because
Yes.
I also watch Drag Race, and RuPaul always says, you know, how the hell are you gonna love somebody else if you can't love yourself, right?
Okay.
Hey, can I get an amen? Amen. Yes.
Amen.
Amen.
Preach.
Thinking about that, you know, Tracie hit on a piece of mine as I was thinking. I'm like, there were so many times that I felt like I couldn't share my voice, you know, trying to be that nice person, or trying to just ease the room, or whatever that, you know, who knows. But I'm just thinking about, like, there were so many moments of me just being kind of silent in my early years. And trying to understand that, like, no, you can speak, you can share your voice, you can, you know, people want to hear your voice. You know, stories and narratives are validated in so many ways, and perspective, all right, it goes back to everything. And so I would probably think about that, but also just thinking about, like, you know, have that confidence, right? Because how are you going to love somebody else if you can't love yourself? So
I would tell my younger self, or remind them, that they are worth more than their usefulness to other people. I think when I learned that, it changed everything. Basically, it primarily opened me up to be able to focus on the work that was the most important to me, and that was the most relevant to me, and that I wanted to do. versus like doing all the things because it felt like I need to do all the things because that makes me worth something. And so I'm useful and I'm here, and that is just like that keeps you from walking in your path. So I would definitely tell young LaNeshe that like your usefulness to other people is not connected to your worth. That's like the main lesson that I learned that I could have saved some time if I learned that earlier.
I love that. See, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, I did. I just wanted to say, like, just it's okay. It's okay to be yourself, because I feel like just the two of you and Shannon and Jason are the two people that know me. And I don't think that I showed that to everybody, especially growing up. And like Sarah, our mutual friend, was reading something because she lives next door to my old principal. And he had the yearbook that I graduated from 8th grade. And he said that I wrote something about like, that in my will, I left determination to the kids that were coming in the next 8th grade class. And I never understood like the capacity of my own self. And I never let other people see that. And I feel like I wish that I did.
Yeah.
And that's what I would just tell my younger self, that it's okay.
I feel you. I think I would do that as well, you know. I remember just not doing things that I wanted to do because I was scared of what people would say or like how I would be perceived, right? Like, oh, like taking more dance classes, like, oh, that was like gay, right? Like, what, like, who the fuck cares, you know, at this point? Like, do what you want to do, Jason. Like, live your fucking best life at 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Let you have that black boy joy that you didn't feel like you had a lot of the times. But I wanted to just ask, you know, because we're in this middle of the modern day civil rights movement, and like everybody's lane is different, right? Some people are out protesting, and that's good, that works for them. Some people can have the finances to donate money to the causes. Some people are writing letters. Like, what do you think your lane is in all this? Like, how are you being the change you want to see in the world? And to my Bridgeport folks, like, there's a lot of stuff happening in Bridgeport right now with the police department and you know, justice for Jason. That's like so empowering, so moving to me. Which is like a whole nother change I can go on. But yeah, how are you being the change you want to see? What's your lane?
I'll start, I guess.
Yeah.
I think like the two things that I do, which are art and marketing, like I think that is going to be how I do it. Educating Black children through art, educating people in general through art, like of all colors and ages and everything, because I think one thing that I've seen through the work that we've done is that we are able to like reach even white people and help them understand our plight much easier through art. So using art to educate people, and then using like the marketing knowledge that I have to amplify the voices and the messages and the things that are happening for the people who are doing work in various ways outside of what I'm doing. Is like using, someone said something, it might have been T, about like using your power, or something about like using the power that you have, like using that to do good. And so that, like, those are the two things that I do. And so those are the two ways that I'm trying to like push the movement forward and put us into a better future.
Yeah, I would just say, you know, just like we were talking about, how are people coping and dealing with this time? Racial injustice, racism, all of that comes with all sorts of trauma. And then there's generational trauma and all of that. So just like with LaNeshe, like in what I do professionally, that definitely is the path that I take, destigmatizing mental health in the Black community, because we need it. You know, like all humans, and in particular with a lot of the trauma that we experience, whether directly, vicariously, or generationally, it's just so important. So that's my lane.
Facts. There was one viewer question that kind of ties into this, and I'll say it's from Emery. Her question was, how can we, as in white people, better support you all, us, in the important work that we do?
I definitely spent a whole week writing a letter about how silent, because I think we've all seen the silence equals violence all over the place, and working inside the theater as admin staff. I mean, I've seen a lot of responses as people from the artistic point of view, but from the internal like staff point of view, I think the number one thing is staying silent. Even when you have like that gut feeling, you know, like for sure that you should speak up, that racial injustices are happening right in front of you and you don't speak up. It can be anything from hiring a Black photographer, somebody who knows how to light Black and brown skin. When I think about audience development and how few of me were available to theaters and all sorts of places across the United States, hire a person to oversee your audience development and understand that racial diversity is not the only kind of diversity. And just don't be silent. When you see something happening, if you see art being improved where the Black person looks like Sambo or anything like that, or Black people or Black and brown people, Black people today, because it's Juneteenth, are being cut out of photos, speak up. Don't just let it happen. If you have that gut feeling, you know, run it by somebody, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the Black person on staff. If there's only one Black person on staff anyway, that's another reason to speak up. So that's a whole nother conversation.
It's valid. It's valid, right?
Yeah.
It's like having one Black person. I think, Shannon, we were kind of talking about this before. I don't want to like blow it up too much, but you know, like being the token Black person in the department, right? And everybody's looking at you for all the answers.
And asking you about CP time over again.
That's rude. That's rude.
Delequa, I can't. Did you have something you want to add, Delequa?
Just keep, when you see this, like you said, no silence. Just speak up. You know, even if there's just nothing you don't understand, it just lead in love. The best thing anyone can do, even if you don't understand something, I have to tell my family and my friends that you may not understand me sometimes, but the changes I'm making, or whatever the case may be. Just because you don't understand don't mean you can't love on me. Love could be the best support because it's the best energy that you get. And it's better if you say the nice thing than don't say the wrong thing. You know, so that's how I try. That is how change needs to happen. You know what I mean? Like I said, everything's not for everybody, and that's okay. You know what I mean? Everything's just not for everybody. You know what I mean? But to attack or to put just any kind of negative energy or connotation on it with your silence or with just because even sometimes silence, because you're so confused, that energy is boiling through too. So everything we're doing, we're all energy beings. You know, we really are. You know, our physical is just here for a moment. So no matter if we're conscious of our energy or not, our energy is, some people are more sensitive than others. So you just gotta be careful.
I just wanted to add, I read somewhere like the best way, if you're a white person and you want to help, you want to be an ally, look around the spaces that you're in. And if every face around you is white, someone needs to relinquish their power to a person of color. You know what I mean? It can't be all white at the top, all white in the middle, and then everybody else is at the bottom. You know, you have to have that balance. People that are hiring everybody should not be all white. So I don't know how you would do it. Just dilute the space. It shouldn't just be all white. That's literally white supremacy.
Yeah.
You're in charge of everything. You go into an audition and the entire panel is all white. How am I supposed to, I don't know.
How do you feel comfortable, right? How do you feel comfortable? How do you feel?
But how do they relate to me?
How they're relating to you, and you know, how do you feel valued? How was your experience seen, right?
Right.
I don't know.
Right. Do they see me as a performer, or do they see me as somebody they need to fill a space with? Am I a token? Am I somebody that they, you know? So just you shouldn't be in an all white space all the time. You know, dilute that mess. Dilute it.
I was gonna say, kind of on like a micro level, a personal level, what I'm really looking for white people to do when they're interacting with Black friends, Black colleagues, Black acquaintances. You know, there's been this whole, you know, reach out to your Black friends thing. And so I'm sure all of us have been getting reached out to by people who may or may not be. And so that shows like how many Black people they have in their lives if you last seen them like 5 years ago and they're reaching out right now. But take into account the labor that goes into like the living and educating people about us, like, and acknowledging that labor, and like, and this might be controversial, I don't know, but like acknowledging that labor with a Cash App or a Venmo drop, for the people that you're asking, especially when you're basically asking them to consult on your life. How do I talk to Black people about this? How do I talk to my staff about being better? That like, that's a consultant. You're asking someone to be a consultant, and you're asking someone to be a consultant about an issue and about an area that can be of trauma for them, right? And so you would never like invite a person who like dealt with domestic abuse to come in and tell you how to deal with a domestic abuser and not approach that in a sensitive way, and not approach that, especially when you're asking to do that in a professional capacity, not approach that with compensation monetarily. So just thinking about how you're interacting with the Black people right in your circle right now that you're learning from, that are educating you with their time, with their energy, just like keeping that in mind. Like, if whatever you can do to like approach that in a way that they can benefit enough to get a cup of coffee, or at least, you know, you're coming to them knowing that it is a labor.
I love that. I don't think it's controversial at all. I was about to drop my Cash App and my Venmo today. I was about to be like, hook it up, but I was like, I felt a little nervous. You know, I got in my head about it, but you know, it is on Twitter if anybody wants to. Shannon.
I've been thinking about this too, and thinking about, you know, my place, and I'm in like the academy, which in many ways I feel this, right? I feel, you know, like the representation for so many different things. And I'm there. So what do I do within that? So I think about like using that voice. Like right now, I feel like I have been empowered and emboldened to just tell the truth. Like there's so, right? Like writing, it's like you can sugarcoat all these different things and you can kind of go around it and you can kind of try to make people feel good, but you have to just be like, here's what it is. And, you know, unfortunately it's challenging. You know, the viewer asked about what they can do as a white person. Like you have to actually do the work too. Like I shared that Black people need to do work about our own selves in history. You have to do the work about how we got to this place and how you benefited off of that. And so you have to understand that you might not even have thought that you were partaking in it, but it's ingrained in your world, right? And so you have to become aware of that to kind of shift that. Otherwise you won't really know. And then you know, LaNeshe and I are going to be charging you for services because then I have to do it. But you know, if you are taking the time to do that, then that helps allow you to again become more aware, knowledge, right? And then you can impart that to maybe your other white friends and family, because they're gonna hear it much better from you, even if they like me and I'm, you know, whatever, and people they praise you, they still will hear much better from you because they see themselves in you. I
just want to say this was a beautiful conversation. I'm so happy we had. I can't thank you all enough. Delequa, Shannon, LaNeshe, Tracie, Aleesha, Ashley, Ryan, and Demi, who got booted off because of the internet. I'm thankful for you all. I love you all. I'm so thankful. If anybody has any last thing they want to say, I'll just leave it out and we'll go celebrate.
Thanks for having us.
Oh,
yeah, thanks for having us, Jason. Thanks for doing this.
Yes, thank you for inviting. Thank you for having us. It was a beautiful time. Nice meeting all of you.
Nice meeting you too.
Nice
thank
seeing
you,
you,
Jason.
everyone.
No, thank you all. Like, you guys are all beautiful. You're all talented. You're all wonderful. But I appreciate you. Happy Juneteenth, you all. You guys are wonderful people.
Juneteenth.
Yes, happy Juneteenth.
Keep fighting, keep loving, and I know y'all got shit to do, so I love you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
I know, so good to see you.